Hello Gitte, I have about Nordstrom, and first off is the company profile, so the history. Nordstrom was started by John W. Nordstrom. He came to America in 1887 with $5 in his pocket and unable to speak English. He worked in a mine until he had enough money to settle down. And in 1901, he had enough money to open up his own shoe store, but he didn't do it on his own. He had a partner named Carl F. Wallin. The store was named Wallin and Nordstrom, and the store was opened in Seattle. The store was very successful, and that led up to opening up another store. And in 1928, John retired and sold his part of his company to his sons, Imret and Elmer. Carl Wallin retired a year later than John and sold his part of the company to John's sons as well. And in 1933 joined John's third son, Lloyd. In 1960 was the year that they had a growing reputation. So in 1960 was the year when Nordstrom really took off. They had about 8 stores in Washington and Oregon. They were the largest independent company in the United States at the time, and they began to expand their selection of apparel in 1963. They introduced women's apparel first, and then in 1966 they introduced male apparel as well. And in 1998 was the year that they started to provide services online. So they had a website where people could see information about them, so they could call them if they had a complaint. And in 2009 was the year that they started to sell their products online. And now it's on to their location. So the Nordstrom headquarters is placed in Seattle, 6th Ave in Washington. And now on to mission statement. So Nordstrom's mission statement is to provide outstanding service every day, one customer at a time. They work hard to make decisions based on the best interest of their customers. They also work hard to provide the best services, they want to improve lives, and they want to exceed the expectations of the customers. They want to be the best one in providing services. So whenever there is a customer, the customers will choose them over the opposite competition. But the service comes with a price. Nordstrom is very expensive, so of course the customers are going to expect a higher standard than if they bought things at, for example. And now on to goods and services provided. So Nordstrom sells clothes and they provide services through their stores and online shopping. So the clothes is very expensive. It's luxurious products from brands such as Ralph Lauren and Billionaire Boys Clubs and a lot of other expensive brands. And their market position, they're very high up in the market position, but they're not the highest because there is Macy's who's at the top. But that's because Nordstrom only focuses on selling products to rich people. And that's not a very big focus group because in America there are not a lot of rich people. But they have a very good market position. They have 74,000 employees in 379 stores over the country. And there are also 2 stores in. And now it's on to the competitors. So as I said earlier, the biggest competitor is Macy's. They are also clothing retailers, so that's why they have a very big competition. But Macy's sells a lot of different price ranges, where Nordstrom only sells very expensive products. There is also Gap, but they are not near as luxurious as Nordstrom is. They sell very cheap clothes and only. So now it's on to number 2. What is special about Nordstrom? Nordstrom is very luxurious. They appeal to more rich people. They value service and the experience you get with a purchase very highly. A lot of their customers are rich folk so they have a higher form of service compared to their competitors. So selling the luxurious brand as they do, they have to provide good service to the customers so the brands want to be sold through them. And now it's on to number 3. Nordstrom's political stand. Nordstrom was boycotted at the start of 2017 because they sold Ivanka Trump. People wasn't very pleased by that, so they boycotted them. And in response, Nordstrom stopped selling Ivanka Trump's products, and that made the Trump supporters boycott Nordstrom as. So no matter what Nordstrom said, they would have people that didn't want to buy their products, because if they said they weren't gonna sell Ivanka Trump's products, then the Trump supporters wouldn't buy from Nordstrom, and if they said they would sell Ivanka Trump's products, then the anti-Trump supporters wouldn't buy from Nordstrom. So Nordstrom's response to all this was that it was not because of any political reasons they took the products off, it was because they didn't sell well enough. That's why they took it off the selection at the stores. But some stores still sold it because they had a lot of products left from Ivanka Trump. But Josh Cornett, which is a very big Trump supporter and an influencer on Instagram, he said on Twitter that he wasn't buying that story because the only reason why Nordstrom said that was to avoid any form of political. So he said to his followers that they should boycott Nordstrom because they weren't very clear about their political standpoint. And today, if you look at Nordstrom's website, they say that they don't support any form of political party, and they don't have any political stance. They don't get any funds from any political parties, and they don't send money to political parties. So they are not involved in any politics at all. So this whole situation was very hard for them to get out of, because people were saying they were hypocrites because they kept selling the product, and then when people was not pleased about it, they took it off, and then when Trump supporter wasn't pleased about it, they lied about why they took it off. People was very mad that they weren't clear about why they took it off in the first place, because they didn't say anything about it, it just happened. So a lot of people thought that it was just because that people said that they should take. And now it's on to number 4, which is Nordstrom's influence on its use. The issue didn't have any long-term effects. They weren't affected by it more than a few months. The reason why it wasn't very bad for them was because the people that say they would boycott them didn't actually do it. They only said it on social media, but didn't really live by it. So they didn't really have any long. And that's typically the way that cancel culture is going to end, because people say that they are bad, but they don't actually do anything about it. They don't really boycott them because they can't live without their products. So Nordstrom's customers didn't really stop buying from them. They just said they did, and it didn't really affect them. So today Nordstrom is trying to just stay out of any type of politics because they don't want to get boycotted. But at the end, cancel culture doesn't really work because people don't live by it, they just say they do. So there aren't any major effects of what has happened compared to other companies, because other companies have experienced the same types of boycott, but they had suffered a lot more because of it than Nordstrom did. Nordstrom was only by a few months, and that was it. Yes, and that is my presentation. I hope you liked it, Gitte.